everybody. Welcome to Off Air and Online. I'm Lindsey Wopschall. Today I have a really special guest with me. I have Brian Geeting. He's one of my good friends. And he's here today because one of the things that I'm really passionate about is sharing vulnerability, because in this world, that's how you connect. But being vulnerable is really hard. I think Brian could probably attest to that. And sharing things that makes you uncomfortable, or you're afraid of being judged or people saying things about you. But when you become vulnerable, you let people see who you really are. And for more times than not, that's when you have a deep and true connection. And Brian has been willing to tell his story of something that he struggled with. And it has to do with that vulnerability. So with not too much more than that, Brian, why don't you go ahead and kind of share with me what's been on your mind?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Sharing a story it's hard, especially your own personal story. So having it on a one-on-one basis, it's easier. So, now that it's like, okay, well, I'm ready to kind of talk about my story in the hopes that it helps people in their relationship to God, because that's what's changed my life. And it's come from a point of struggle. So it's really what I'm here to talk about is just my encounter with Jesus and my experience with God. And so, growing up in a Catholic family, I did all the normal things, went to church, prayed before meals. There was obviously a relationship with God, and I prayed before bed, but there wasn't a depth that I felt really until later on in college.
So did you feel that it was more of actions rather than why? I think we sometimes do things without intentionality behind them.
Right.
So
exactly.
was that kind of like going through the motions?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's kind of how our society's set up, and maybe how we've been taught about faith, is that it's very rule-based, and you learn about the history and the doctrine, and there's no personal encounter with God. And that's where it all starts. It's the personal encounter. And
so you never had that?
No, I didn't. I don't know if I even thought about it. It was just something that, well, God is distant. We pray to Him. We hope that He answers our prayers. But it was never like God was in love with me or pursuing me.
Okay.
It was always something farther away. So, and I guess it wasn't until college, I went to Miami, and sophomore year came around, and it's a year of you're not in the dorms, you're kind of more free, and it was just a year of really letting loose and getting sucked into everything, the party scene, and
a lot of people struggle with that, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just, I think it's kind of, for good or for worse, it's the way that it is right now. And so it was in that year where I really started to try to understand myself. And part of that was my sexuality. And that, I don't know, in our culture, at least growing up, it may not have been talked about of what's right and what's wrong in terms of sexuality. At least in my family, it was loving, open environment. But there's a silence around sexuality that promotes a certain way of thinking what's right and what's wrong. And I felt that. I knew that I was attracted to men, and I was but on the same time, I was emotionally and spiritually attracted to women. So it's who am I? What am I?
Wow.
You want to... So all the labels, it's... that's where I struggled. I don't want to be put in a box of this is who Brian is.
A box of being gay?
Right. Yeah.
What was wrong with that box? Everything that you were raised?
Yeah, it just... there's just certain, I guess I was uncomfortable with it. I'm more than that, it's part of who I am, and God made me this way, but I'm more than that. And
So you didn't want to be labeled by
Right.
your sexuality.
Right. I want to be labeled by God. Like, God created me and he defines me, and I want my identity to come through him. And that's something that I've been on the journey to finding peace to share,
Yeah.
talk about it.
And it sounds like even in that moment, so you said you started exploring and realizing, was that the first time where you explored this idea of being attracted to men? Had you thought about that before?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, it's just like whoever you're attracted to, you have certain feelings that you can't explain. And if you're attracted to certain people, and, so early on, even early high school, late grade school, it's like, I didn't think much about it, but it's like, something's different here. The world tells me I should be attracted to this type of person.
Yeah.
So it was hard in the sense that, you fall in love with someone that you can't be in love with. And I realize now that those relationships, they've helped me to understand how I want to fall in love with God. And I have been falling in love with God. I feel drawn, like that's my spouse, and that's who I want to pursue. And so since then, it's been this crazy, interesting path,
Yeah.
to here. So.
Well, explain to me how that works, because I know there was probably a lot of struggle in those college years and confusion of this idea of being attracted to men, but yet wanting to pursue God, because a lot of people say that those can't be the same. You can't be pursuing both.
Right.
So talk to me about kind of how you handled that.
Yeah, after sophomore year, I realized like I was so far from who I was supposed to be. I felt like God wanted to use me in some way to reveal himself to others, and I was not living in that, and I felt it, and it was this personal hell that I was in.
And this didn't necessarily have to do with your sexuality, but the way you were living.
Right.
Okay.
And sexuality was wrapped in that too. I think it was a cause of like a lot of the things that I did because I couldn't let out what I was feeling. Like I grew up being like, oh, there's this joyful. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He shouldn't have he shouldn't be going through anything. Great family, friends, everything. I had everything, but there was still something that like I can't fake this anymore. I can't fake this smile. So it came to one of those moments of like conversions of a really traumatic personal hell which was caused by mistakes and sins and awful things that I did, and as a result of suppressing my sexuality. And so it was in that darkness when I broke down and I drove home from Miami, and I was like laying on my parents' couch and in tears. Like I knew what I needed.
What did you need?
I needed a relationship with God, and
you didn't have it.
no,
Where did you lose it? I mean, we
I
talked
never-
about you growing up with it, or you never had it.
I would say that I never had it.
Okay.
It was all theory, and so like this, sophomore year, it's, okay, well, Brian, you're depressed. You need to go to a psychiatrist, and, I went once and I knew it wasn't the answer. And I knew going in, but it was more to just, in a way, help my family. Like, all right, I'll go for you,
Right.
And it was an automatic, like, you're depressed, you need Lexapro or, antidepressant. And I was like, not me. For me, myself, I knew that wasn't the answer. It was, I need to pursue God. And I remember saying to him, God, if you can get me out of this darkness, I'm yours. And there was like a flicker still, a little flame in my heart that I remember thinking like, this is going to be a journey. It's going to be tough, but God is holding me.
Yeah.
So
So I'm going to ask this question coming from people who struggle as you have, with this question of this idea of the church and being homosexual, can that they coexist?
Yes, for sure. It's obviously difficult for many people because there's the perception of the church saying one thing and you were born this way, and how does that mix? And what I would say is that the church is not the end all be all. It starts with a personal encounter. Like I said, if I were to have just pursued the church, then I wouldn't have met Christ in the same way. They should flow together. They go hand in hand, but it's okay. Personal encounter with Christ led me to church and my Catholic faith. That's my roots, and that's the avenue that God has given me to know Him better. And it's a beautiful avenue that I have only known. And people have other ways that they've come to know God too. And
Right.
but so I would just say for people struggling with that is just ask God with a mustard seed of faith. Just ask Him to meet you, and spend some time just when you wake up each morning, like, all right, God, I'm here. I want to know that you're real, and He will reveal Himself, and in a way that will blow your mind.
And you are someone in my life who continually teaches and shows me that if you just take a moment, He'll take your breath away, type of thing. And it's so cool. How do you open yourself to that? Because so many people want to say, "Oh, I haven't had a personal encounter, or I'll never have one," or "Yeah, okay, easy for you to say."
Right.
How do you start having that relationship?
Yeah, and just to say, it's nothing that I've done by my own merits or accords to deserve an encounter with Christ, or just to throw it out there, like I'm nothing special, and
Yeah.
I've done things that I say, why would you ever want to come to me,
But
And
it's your story, and that's
right,
what makes
yeah.
it.
So so I think it's just I kind of forget what you even asked, but
Well, if someone is trying to seek a relationship with God, where should they go? How should they start? I mean, you mentioned starting your day with maybe a prayer,
Right.
but maybe even me, I'm not really good at out loud prayers. That's something I'm like, oh, I don't know if I should do this. How do I do this? I have conversations always, but and that's to me what I think they should look like. But how do people start?
Yeah.
Just give them some ideas.
Yeah, I would say one thing that I wish I knew earlier in my life was that prayer is not just talking, that prayer is listening, and should be a majority of our prayer is listening, because
I love that. I love that because we live in a day and age where we just have sounds everywhere. We have cars, we have text messages, then we have Snapchat, then the Instagram,
Right.
then the Facebook. But now Mom's talking to me, now Dad's talking to me. How do we listen?
it's almost like we need to find a spot, that you go to. It's in your house or outside, or you go somewhere that is like your prayer spot, where it's just like step away from everything, leave the phone in the other room. It's just you, nothing on you, and God. And you just sit and just say, okay, God, I'm here. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be feeling or thinking, but I'm here to listen, because I know you want me to know you. And like any parent wants their child to know them and feel their love, God pursues us the same way. And we need to take time to actually let God talk. And the talking happens in the heart. And when after a while, you start noticing patterns, okay, like there was these numbers that either numbers, or there was like a rainbow, or there was this conversation that happened and this word got brought up 3 times a day. Just certain things, and I call them God moments. It's like, he wants us to know him.
Yeah.
So it's having our eyes open to those moments changes everything.
Yeah, and I mean, like, for me, I'm a runner, and I've noticed the times where I just kind of go for a run to clear my head. I mean, I call them prayer runs because that's where I have those really good conversations.
Right.
And I think it's different for every person, but just being able to be open and to find that space is a good start. It sounds like you're saying.
For sure, yeah, and it just gives you courage and confidence, like you're on the right path. When you have those God moments, whenever I see 808, those three numbers, it's for whatever reason, God speaks to me whenever I see 808. And I was
Where did those numbers come from?
When I went to high school at St. X, we started at 808. And then I was on a discernment retreat thinking about the priesthood, and that number kept coming up. And it was like, interesting. So even walking here today, I was feeling like nervous and like, all right, God, need some confidence right now. And, I walked past and there was a license plate that said 808 on it. And it was just like, all right, that's what I needed. Thank you, God. But just little things. And let God use our physical world to reveal himself. He will.
Mm-hmm. And I love your story and the fact that it's like this big struggle of yours, this sexuality, is so great. And yet it's almost revealed one of the most beautiful things in your life. I mean, I don't want to take those words from you, but would you agree?
Completely. It's what seemed like the worst thing is now such a gift. Love is not black and white, and it has helped me to love the world and people in a different way. And just like you love differently, I love differently. Mm-hmm. And whether you're gay, straight, in the middle, whatever, it's just, it's revealed God's love, and that's really set me free, and set me on this path to pursue God and hopefully do his work every day. Yeah. So
that's Brian, that's beautiful.
Well, thanks, Lindsey.
And I guess I should have said too, the neat thing is you actually work for a church right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you're still pursuing your one big love,
right.
And your story, which I kind of mentioned, that struggle is what has brought you there. And I think that's what's so beautiful. And if you follow these things in life, you realize, I don't want to say it for you, but it sounds like had you not dealt with that struggle, you wouldn't be where you are today and have that relationship that you've always been really wanting and seeking.
Right. It gave me the freedom to be set on a path where, it doesn't matter where I've gone. I go with God, and that's my hope every day. And that has brought me to where I am, working at, a Catholic church and loving it. And that's a community of people that God has brought me to at this point. And so, we're all in it together. God wants us to know that we're one, and that He is with us through it all. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Brian.
You're
Your
welcome.
story is so beautiful.
You're the best, Lindsey. Thanks.
And I really appreciate you sharing with me because I know how hard it is. But this is for you guys. We want to share stories to make you know that you're not alone and that there's other people that have felt similar struggles just like you have.
And anything I can do to help, I'm here, available. So.
He's a good one. Okay, up the hill. Took some time. It got harder. The longer I went, but I did it. And you can do it too. You change.